Kristen, Kyle, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Thanks for having us. Come on. Just wrapping up our trip, 3 days. And the big takeaway here is I never travel any place just to see one person. So when you sales guys are out there traveling, you need to then try and find 1 or 2 or 3 other people to see.
The commodity manager of Electrolux wanted me to text her. That was her preferred method of contact. She was getting 200 emails a day. She said, just text me. This was 5 years ago. I'm like, okay. Literally could get her every time.
What's up, guys? Kyle Milan here with Manufacturing Tribe TV. Today we're at MD&M Minneapolis show.
You're always going to remember that person that was different than everybody else. So let's talk standing out and being unique.
We're back with another episode. We've increased some of our production value, so hopefully you guys enjoy it.
Brett's got a question. How segmented do you make the emails every 2 to 4 weeks? Are you sending to the broad group of contacts or new customers? I think that you could do it both ways, but I think in general, everybody needs to see your content. Everybody needs to see something that you're creating and something that you can provide value to.
You can tell a story a whole lot faster in a 3-minute video than you can in a 14-page article or 10 2-page articles.
Everything's about brand awareness and content right now, and it will continue to be that. So focus on producing some sort of content, and if you're selling B2B, which I'm assuming most people here are, focus on LinkedIn.
Number one, we do not charge for this stuff. I put all of my content out there for free. Send it to somebody that you feel may get some value out of it, and also engage. If you guys have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. We'll get to all of the comments after the break. Those comments mean the world to us because it shows that you guys care. So don't just sit there and watch, but please engage and hit those thumbs on LinkedIn. What is up, guys? I'm Kyle Milan, and today is Monday. So for those of you that follow this channel closely and my content, you know today is Ask Kyle. So this is the show that's all about answering your questions. Anybody that sent questions into askkyle@mfgtribe.com has hopefully sent those already. And we pull those up, and then any new live comments that get pulled in, we answer those too. But first we want to go through people that have done the proper method and sent an email in, which sometimes we still get direct messages, but if you guys could just shoot over an email, makes it easier for us to organize it. As always, guys, we come live twice a week, Mondays and Wednesdays. Mondays are all about answering your questions. Wednesdays is about technical sales and industrial marketing. So we're going to get into the show right now. Let's see what questions come through. Did you ever feel intimidated by the sheer amount of annual money that you had to close? I'm fairly new to industrial sales, and it seems like moving from a small pond to the ocean. So we're talking about sales. Did I ever feel intimidated? I feel like when I first got started in industrial sales, in technical sales, it was like we had just lost 30% of our revenue at the first company I worked at. And the owner's like, all right, we just lost like, I forget what it was, like $5-6 million, something like that. And I needed to go out and replace it. That was a bit intimidating. It was right when the economy was going into a recession. So it had to do with the automotive industry tanking back in the mid 2000s. So yes, it was intimidating at first because I was brand new to it. And I felt like the weight of my shoulders of the company and the success of the company relied on that. But all you have to do is look at it from a standpoint like, look, if you work for a $20 million a year company, you bringing in $1 million, $2 million worth of business is not a huge deal, right? If you look at the overall scope and the scale that your current employer has. Now, if you're working for a $2 million a year company and they want to go from 2 to 4, that can be intimidating. But what you have to look at is just break it down to like, look, I know that I can't put all my eggs in one basket. This isn't going to come from a single deal. This is going to be a compilation of multiple deals, multiple opportunities. So it doesn't matter what the goal is, whether the goal is 2 million, 20 million, $200,000. You just have to look at how much work do you have to put into it. Whatever you think the amount of work you have to put into it, you can multiply it by 10 because it's going to have to be way more than that to be able to achieve the goal, most likely, because people usually underestimate how much work I want to grow a couple $100,000 or I want to grow 20%. It's only going to require this much amount of work. People usually underestimate that. They usually go into it and being like, I only have to do this much, but at the end of the day, they get halfway through the year, they're not reaching their goals, they're not where they should be. And they're like, shoot, I got to step it up. And they get into Q3, Q4, and like, I really got to step it up to try and hit these numbers by the end of the year. Just go into it and be like, look, I need whatever I think I need to do, I need to multiply it by 10. So if I think I need to make 50 phone calls a week to reach this goal, and you could just break it down, simple math, right? You're going to say each deal is worth X amount of dollars, potential X amount of dollars on average. It takes me this many people to get an opportunity, and just go through the math and look at like, what's my close percentage? What's my from a marketing qualified lead, MQL or SQL, sales qualified lead, to an actual customer? How many people do I have to talk to before I get a quote opportunity? Once I get in the quote opportunity, how many people do I have to have in the quote funnel and the quote process to then close a deal? What's my close rate? Things like that. You can do all that math and work backwards, but I would say still, you need to make 50 calls a week to hit that. I would say make 500. You need to send out 20 emails. I would say 200. You need to connect to 1,000 people on LinkedIn. Try and connect with 20,000 people. Nothing bad is going to come from you 10xing the amount of work that you have to put in to get that end goal. You're going to work more, you're going to work harder, you're going to have more volume, more activity, and hopefully you're going to surprise yourself and be like, yeah, dude, and surprise your bosses. Like, I've been doing this and I was trying to get 2 million in revenue and I ended up getting like 14 million in revenue. That's going to be a good day. I don't think anybody would argue with that, but go into it knowing that it's going to take way more work than you think that you have to do, and just break it down in small bite-sized pieces. Like, look at it on a weekly, even down to a daily basis. Like, I know monthly, quarterly, I have to hit this. This means I have to do this on a weekly basis, which means I have to do this on a daily basis, and then just work backwards and reverse engineer that to where this is what I have to do every day. For me to hit this goal, I have to break this down into daily tasks and daily things that I have to do to keep pushing the ball down the field or bringing new people into the funnel. I agree that it can be overwhelming, but I feel like if you break it down on a daily, weekly basis, it's a little bit more consumable. So hit me with the next one, Nick. Would you recommend using LinkedIn prospecting for all my non-local pipeline building? If not, how much of the traditional approach should I utilize? I would say LinkedIn prospecting should be used for non-local, local, pretty much everybody under the sun. You have to look at it from the standpoint that everybody has their preferred method of contact, right? Whether it's they like phone calls, they like email, they like LinkedIn. And by like, I mean, you can get a hold of them on that platform. Everybody's got different schedules and different busyness and things that are distracting them, the noise out there. That's whether it's internal communication through email. They're never at their desk. They're always on the floor. They're always in meetings. They're always in other people's offices, things like that. But I would hit everybody in all means. LinkedIn is one of those tools that you can use, but you need to be sending emails. You also need to be picking up the phone and calling people, because you don't know how easily and quickly you can get a hold of somebody. You may think, all right, look, I'm going to call them. Like, that's traditional, right? Cold calling is traditional. Cold visits, going to someplace, that's traditional way of doing it. I'm going to do that. But what happens when that doesn't work, right? Then do you have to go back and be like, all right, this isn't working. I've been doing this for 4 weeks, for 4 months, whatever. It's not working as well as I want it to. Imagine if the whole time you were hitting them up on all those different platforms to figure out what is the preferred method of contact. So if you do email them and then you call them, or if you call them, then send them an email. Once you're done with that, find them on LinkedIn, send a connection request. Don't be salesy. Don't be pitchy. Just say, look, we do a lot of work in your space. I wanted to connect with you. Simple as that. Then you're sending them content through LinkedIn. You're engaging with their posts. Maybe you're sending them a message with some valuable piece of content that your company's created, or a company like MFG Tribe has created for you. You're sending that to them. Then you're like, oh, I still haven't got a hold of this guy or this girl. I'm going to be in the area this time. Email and be like, hey, I'm going to be in your area next week on Tuesday between 10 and 1. Can I stop by for a quick 20-minute conversation? Let's say that doesn't work. And let's say that they are local. Just go there and knock on the door and ask to talk to that person. Let's say that they're busy. Leave something with them. Leave them some sort of piece of paper. Leave them your business card. People will say, like, that stuff's dead. It works to a certain extent, right? If you have business cards, just leave them. If you have a 1-page brochure or a line card, leave it with them. Then you go back and you just put them back through your contact cycling and say, I'm going to hit them again. I'm going to email them 2 weeks later. I'm going to give them a phone call. I'm going to leave them a voicemail. I'm going to poke them on LinkedIn, and just keep on doing it over and over and over again. LinkedIn is one tool. You don't want to solely rely on LinkedIn prospecting as the main thing that's driving it. But over time, you'll learn what the percentage of success is. I know that if I go and visit 10 companies in person in an industrial park, I'm going to get 2 people that actually let me talk to them. Out of those 2 people, maybe one person says, you know what, you have a service, I have a problem, that you have a service, or you have a product that can fix my problem. I want to have a deeper conversation and I want pricing from you. If it's 1 out of 10, that's fine. If you make 100 phone calls and 75 times you leave a voicemail and 25 times you're actually talking to the person, that's fine. You can scale it from there, but you have to hit all areas because you don't really know what's going to work the best. And you may be like, dude, I've been doing this for 10 years. I know what works the best the last 12 months. It would shock you how quickly what worked 2 weeks ago to a certain industry or 3 weeks ago adjust slightly enough to where it reduces your performance to where if you're doing all of the means of contacting somebody, then that is the best way to do it, right? Because you're removing the time out of the equation and saying, I'm going to do everything at once and then see what trickles through. How do people like to be communicated with? You're just going after omnipresence, which I've talked numerous times. And Google search that word, omnipresence. It's basically being everywhere all at the same time. The way to do that in technical sales is to hit them across the different methods. So you're going to be sending emails, phone calls, cold visits, LinkedIn, send some snail mail, see them at a trade show, do all those things all at the same time. And you're going to instantly boost the amount of success you can have, like, drastically. What's the next question, Nick? We're just rolling through. We're like 12 minutes into this. We're rolling through. How much of my company's unsold should I reasonably hope to convert to sales? So for those of you that don't know, unsold, I always refer to unsold as people that you quoted. This is not my terminology. This is just sales terminology. Unsold are people that you have quoted. You sent them a quote. You didn't close them. They were unsold. And so now you're going to go back through and see those people. Throw that back up, Nick. Let me finish reading that question. Are there any signs that should make any of them seem like better odds? So answer the first part. I would say going through unsold people, I would go back 2 to 3 years worth of who has your company quoted. And it doesn't matter if you're new, if you're brand new to technical sales, brand new at a company. And guys, definitely leave your comments in, because once we come back from a break, we're going to be answering those live comments. So throw them in there now if you can, and we will get to them. But if you're brand new to a company, going after unsold is the fastest way to get opportunities besides current customers, right? You can go after current customers, try and upsell them, see what's going on. Maybe your company's lost communication with them over the last couple of years as a customer. See if they have any new opportunities. But the unsold is like somebody at your company, whether it was you and you've been doing this for 10 years for your company, or you're new, somebody got the brand, your brand in front of them and convinced them enough to say, hey, you know what? I want pricing on this. And for whatever reason, you didn't close them. Whether it was the salesperson's fault, the company's fault, or they just picked a competitor or something like that for whatever reason. Take that data, go back 2 to 3 years, and hit all those people up. As far as the expected odds of success rate, I mean, that depends. I would say work on the most recent ones first, unless you can look through this list of 50, 100, 200 companies. Unless you can look through this list and say, I know for a fact these companies have a big spend with what my service is, or a big spend with what my product is. So I think that I'm going to rank them as A, potential customers and prospects. I'm going to rank them as A, and I want to tackle the A people first. So maybe you go through it and you're like, these people, I feel like they would be a B or a C category. And you can try and do that. But at the end of the day, like, there's been so many times I've worked at industrial companies and I go through the list with the owners or the executives. I'm like, all right, here's all the people we've quoted, or here's all of our current customers. What do you guys think about probability and likelihood of any of these people being heavy hitters that we could possibly get in front of? And most of the time they're like, no, those people don't use anything. We got all their spend with this, or they stopped using that, or whatever. They have their opinion. And then you go into it and you're like, yeah, but I'm just going to follow up and see. I'm going to ask them for myself and see. And you'd be surprised how many times, like, that company that your owner or your bosses thought wasn't a heavy hitter or didn't have any new opportunities for you, you get into it and they're like, yeah, actually, we do have some business I want you to quote, or we do have this problem that I'd like you to solve with your product. And it becomes a massive opportunity. So don't always listen to those people that are saying, like, this is my opinion. Take it with a grain of salt, right? You can ask them their opinion, but then at the end of the day, you need to do your due diligence, reach out to those people. But I would start with, like I said, any of those people that you think have a high likelihood of you being able to solve their problem, or the most recent ones, because those are going to be the freshest in their mind. So if you reach out to them and say, hey, I wanted to follow up to see if this opportunity, it's been 4 months, it's been 6 months. I want to follow up to see if this opportunity is still around, or if did you guys find a solution to that problem? And they may come back and be like, yeah, we did. We went with this other solution or this other person. That may end up being one of your competitors, which is fine. Be like, okay, I'd still like to keep our communication open. I'd still like to see anything down the road that you guys have opportunities. So is it okay if we keep in touch? And are you the best person to talk to about that? To just open up those lines of communication. Or they may come back and be like, no, you know what, we haven't closed that, but I'm glad you followed up. We just had a meeting about it, whatever, right? So like you need to hit that unsold list as hard as possible. I'm glad that question came in because I talk about that a lot and people just seem to overlook it and just be like, no, like we didn't get it. So screw them. We're not going to go after them again. Like there's a lot of dollars in that unsold list. So that's the 3 questions that we're answering right now. We're going to take a quick break and come back and ask any live questions. So be sure to leave your comments in the comment section now if you haven't already, and let's go through them. We'll be right back. What if they don't currently have a problem with a process or system? Will the approach still be effective? If they don't have a problem, man, you can't solve it. So if you go into a sales call and you're like, hey, I want to talk to you about X, Y, and Z. You guys have any issues with it? They're like, nope. Don't sell the unsellable. Is homepage content the most important? So that brings up a good point. What you need to look at in your Google Analytics is your top landed pages. And the top landed pages are what page do people first see? And we always look at the top 10. And so is homepage usually the first of the top 10 landed on pages? Yes, it is usually, but it typically only represents no more than 50% of the total traffic that lands on that page first. Is only about 50% go to the homepage. 30, 45 minutes a day working on building out your network. And then I would spend 30 to 45 minutes a day engaging with your network. Assuming that you have deals already in the pipeline, current customers, you have meetings during the week, stuff like that, where it's pulling out your time to where you only have a few hours left over, then that's how I'd split it. Half your time focused on building your network, the other half of the time focused on engaging. All right, we are back and we have some comments coming through, which I appreciate that, guys, because that keeps us going. As you know, we give this content away for free just to help anybody out there. So if you get any value out of this, if there's a question that I answer, you're like, dude, I have that same question, or you agree with what I said for the answer, share it out on LinkedIn, share it out on YouTube, tell somebody you know, shoot them a message and be like, dude, check out Kyle's content because this stuff is lit. So let's see. Benjamin Cooper, should you space out phone calls, emails, LinkedIn requests, or do you do all 3 the same day or 2 and then follow up in a couple of weeks? I would say you don't want to be too spammy. So I'd spread it out a little bit, maybe a day or 2 if you're going to say like, if you're going to hit them up on all those methods. But what I will say is if you pick up the phone and call somebody and you don't get them, which most of the time you won't, 75 to 80% of the time, they're not going to answer the phone, at least in this world, which I live in, which hopefully most of you live in, which is industrial, technical type sales. If you leave them a voicemail, send them an email immediately after you leave them that voicemail, because this offers you an opportunity to not just be like, hey, I'm Benjamin from this company. Wanted to see if you have time to talk about this. No, you could be like, hey, John, I just left you a voicemail on your desk phone. Wanted to see if you have 20 minutes available to talk about this, or we just helped a company in your area with this solution. Let me know if you have some time that works. Thanks, Ben. Right? You can do that right away, and it comes off less salesy. You're just following up on something you just did, because maybe they didn't get the voicemail because they're in a meeting. Maybe they're literally in a meeting. Your email comes through. They respond back right away, and they're like, "All right, sounds good. How's this work for you next week on Thursday at 10?" Then I would give it a couple of days, send them a LinkedIn connection request. Now, for the most part, like once you start doing this and you're in the thick of it and you get distracted with things where you're actually talking to somebody, you're actually sending quotes, you're responding to your attempts to people, it's going to all get mixed up. Because once you're in like week 3, 4, 5, 6 of this, you're not even going to be paying attention to who you're going after. It's just going to be like somewhat on autopilot in your mind. So you're not going to be like, okay, this person's next. I'm going to call them, email them, send them a LinkedIn connection request. Most likely you're going to have some sort of list you built if you're doing LinkedIn prospecting, you've built this filtered search list and you're just going through one by one and sending them connection requests. And then you're going through a different list that you have phone numbers for. And you're going to go through that list. Hopefully you're using like a CRM system like HubSpot or Salesforce. And you're going through and you're picking up the phone, calling them, send them an email, call them, send them an email. And that's the way it should go. And you shouldn't be, most likely you won't be working off of a singular list and doing one thing at a time once you get a few weeks into it. And Nick, I did see, don't forget to go back to that comment from Joe after this one. Real example of LinkedIn content to share from Yazid. Real example of LinkedIn content to share. So LinkedIn content to share, you should be, hopefully your company is creating some sort of content. That's really the goal, right? Whether you have an agency like ours that's doing it for you, or you guys are doing it internally, you need to share something where it's going to either educate and entertain at the same time, or one or the other that's going to provide value to that person. So it's not like, hey, look at this article from the Washington Post, interested to know your thoughts about it. That's not relevant. And at the end of the day, do you really care about the person's thoughts? Like, who cares about that drama that gets published in newspapers and things like that? But providing some sort of value. Maybe it's from some manufacturing website that's got some trending article about, hey, thought of you, saw this article and thought you might get some value out of it. Shoot it over there if you didn't create it. But ideally, you want a library of content you've created that can educate or entertain that person that's relevant to what it is that they do. So like the 5 tips for this, or 3 ways to reduce this, some article or video your company's already made. And then you shoot that over to that person. You're like, hey, thought that you might get some value out of this. Hope you have a great rest of your week. And see, or maybe somebody they know might get some value out of it. That's really the best content to share. Now, if you're talking about sharing on your LinkedIn profile, you should be posting that stuff to your LinkedIn company page and then sharing it from your company page to your personal profile as you're building out your network. So that way people can see, oh, you work at this company, this comes through, and then it's providing value to them. Maybe they want to follow the company, maybe they want to comment on it. So it's less of a cold touch or whatever. Once you do reach out to that person, you're like, yeah, I sent you the stuff. I posted the stuff. I sent you the valuable content first. And then now you're asking for 10, 20 minutes of their time. And now you're asking them, hey, do you have any issues with this software? Do you have any issues with your daily scheduling, or you're optimizing your manufacturing plant? Because I have this solution. If you're interested, let's set up a quick 20-minute demo or something like that. Still not being too sales pitchy, but hopefully that answers your question. Throw up Joe's comment. Benjamin waved. What's up, brother? And then Joe Glover. Let's go. Joe, I think that you sent, I'm almost positive you sent me a message on LinkedIn asking for some stuff. And I will look at that right after we finish up this live to get that back to you. So guys, as always, like, at the end of the day, it has to be focused on providing any sort of value. Like, I feel like every technical salesperson, I feel like every industrial marketer can do these LinkedIn lives, can create content. You just have to get outside of that comfort zone and just start doing it, and just start doing these daily interactions. If you go to my YouTube channel, we've got over 250 videos on there for you to consume going back the last 3 years. I feel like there might be even some a little bit older than that, but it's all about consuming the content, learning something from it, and then implementing it right away. You can look at the videos we've done this year alone. I'm talking about your weekly strategy for technical sales, breaking it down from a daily basis, what you be doing daily. All those videos are on the YouTube channel. If you're not already subscribed to that YouTube channel, definitely go check it out and turn on those notifications. There's going to be a ton of new content that we're coming out with over the next couple of months as we transition into our new office, as we transition into the new 4 times larger studio than what we have here. There's going to be a lot of behind the scenes footage. There's going to be a lot of lives where we're answering questions randomly, also bringing in different team members of employees at MFG Tribe to answer some questions specifically, maybe even putting Nick on camera to answer all the video stuff, and people like that. And he's shaking his head no. So guys, as always, I appreciate you at least taking 5, 10, 15 minutes of your day to consume this content, whether you're watching this on a replay, whether you're listening to this on the podcast, or consuming it through LinkedIn. We appreciate any sort of time that you provide to us, because I know that time is valuable to you. So by you even spending 5 minutes, it means the world to us, and it keeps driving us to continue to do these on a weekly basis. and come up with new topics and field all these new questions. So for Monday's show, Ask Kyle. Send an email over to askkyle@mfgtribe.com. Stay tuned for Wednesday's show, where we're talking about industrial marketing and technical sales. And as always, we will see you